So, since yesterday we started reading from the memories of Srila Prabhupada. Probably the title of the book will be My Lord and Master. And I want to thank Pranabandhu Prabhu for arranging that. I never thought of reading out like this, but when Pranabandhu Prabhu got to know that I was writing that book in Croatia during our retreat there, so he suggested that we have the reading here in the manner. And I was a little hesitant yesterday because I didn't know how to present it. Then Shruti Dharma Prabhu gave me a very nice suggestion. He told me that I speak and then read like that. That way we can probably cover it more extensively. Otherwise, just reading, I didn't know how it would have sounded. When you read this one thing, when I read it out to you, maybe that sound different. So, yesterday how many of you are here yesterday? Okay, how many of you are not here yesterday? Okay, so briefly, this is, as I mentioned, my memories of Srila Prabhupada. Yesterday, we covered to some extent like what I had been doing before I became a devotee, briefly. It was described then how I came in contact with ISKCON after an extensive search for a guru in India. And so then I got the Nectar of Devotion. How many of you have read Nectar of Devotion? How many of you know what is the Nectar of Devotion? Okay, so you know what it is. Srila Prabhupada's rendition of Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And this is a brilliant book. And when I started to read that book, from the very first page, I felt that this was what I was looking for. And by reading that book, I became convinced, and not only I became convinced, I had a dream of Srila Prabhupada the next night. And I saw Srila Prabhupada sitting on a Vasasana. Like, to me, that Vasasana actually looked more like a throne on which a king sits. Generally in India, sadhus don't sit in these elaborate asanas. And so it was kind of little unusual for me to see Prabhupada sitting in such an... That asana that Prabhupada was sitting was much more gorgeous than this one. And and then there was a brilliant light coming out of Srila Prabhupada. There was as if there was a brilliant light, and Srila Prabhupada was sitting with the light emanating from his body. And many devotees were sitting around Srila Prabhupada. And just the sight made me realize, or made me feel, that finally I found my spiritual master. And then I went to the temple in Calcutta, and I asked them where Srila Prabhupada was, and I was told that Prabhupada was in America at that time. And then I thought that until Srila Prabhupada came back to India, I would travel to different places of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes and Krishna's pastimes. And the first place I went to was Mayapur. And everyone, those days Mayapur was very remote and very simple and there were about 200-300 devotees total, and most of them were Americans and Europeans. And so the atmosphere was very, very divine and very serene. And so I went to Mayapur in the evening, and I met the devotees, and they all were inviting me, asking me to stay there and at least give it a try. And some were saying, why don't you join us? And just, you know how devotees are. Like, whenever they get a new person, like everyone wants to preach and make him a devotee instantly. So, okay, so here I'll read from this part. The warm invitations from the devotees, along with the wonderful spiritual atmosphere, attracted me greatly. Since I had already made up my mind to surrender to Srila Prabhupada, I considered, why not commit myself and stay? It was not a difficult decision. I just went to a barber, shaved my head, purchased a set of dhoti and kurta, took a bath in the Ganges, threw away my old clothes, and put on the new ones. When I returned to the temple, everyone was surprised and delighted at my transformation. The first to see me was Pandu Das, a devotee I had met the previous evening. Hey, he exclaimed, you shaved up and became a devotee. But then he paused and added, no, you have always been a devotee. And so this is how I joined. It didn't take me very long. Yeah, one thing is, like when I took that decision and I decided to shave up, then I thought that I can shave up, and in 2 months' time my hair will grow, and if I want, then I can go back after 2 months. But that 2 months didn't end as yet. So, and I was taken to Bhavananda Maharaj and Jayapataka Maharaj. They were the co-directors, and they made me sign one form, fill up a form and sign it. And I remember one clause there was very impressive. It said that I should never act in such a way that will bring disgrace and dishonor to Srila Prabhupada. And that point remained very deeply ingrained in my heart. From that time only I committed that I'll never act in such a way that may bring any disgrace to Srila Prabhupada. And then I was introduced to one devotee who was the temple commander. To me, he looked very much like a military commander. He was very grave and stern. He was my very good friend, Madhusavita Prabhu, who is the GBC of Italy now. And so he gave me the first service. His temple commander's business was to engage the devotees. So my first service was to go to the kitchen and help make the khichuri. In Mayapur, they used to distribute mass khichuri to the local people, which was a kind of food distribution program at that time. And so I was asked to go and help cook the khichuri. And so this area there were some Bengali devotees who actually, during the Bangladesh genocide, they escaped from Bangladesh and came to India as in political asylum, and some of them actually joined ISKCON. They were all weavers. So their main service was to weave, and they used to cook the khichuri. So I was sent to help them. So when I went to the kitchen and reported to the elderly Bengali devotee in charge of cooking and told him that I was sent to help, he examined me from head to toe by his penetrating glance. I could tell he was not impressed. He took me out back, pointed to a pile of firewood, directed me to bring the wood to the kitchen and left. He had not told me how much to bring, so I just kept carrying one armful of wood, one after another. And by the time he returned, half the kitchen was filled with wood. He was totally disgusted, gave me a disapproving look, and told me to take most of the wood back to the pile. Then he led me to the storeroom, asked me to bring bags of rice and dal to the kitchen, and again disappeared. The bags must have weighed 100 kilos each. There was no way I could even pick them up, let alone carry them to the kitchen. So I got hold of a bag and started to drag it across the floor. But along the way, it became stuck between the staircase and the pillar. I pulled as hard as I could to dislodge it, but it would not budge. And when I gave it one last heave, the bag broke and the dal scattered all over the floor. Just then, of course, the devotee returned. When he saw the mess I had made, he became so exasperated that he did not say a thing. He just gave me that look again, letting me know without words that he thought that I was the most useless person in this world. My fumbling attempt at service, I felt, had caused only disappointment to the devotees. That was the beginning of my spiritual life in Mayapur. So this is how it started. And of course that service was only for a day. The next day I was sent to the field to cut grass. And I thought that was a better service because I did not have to report to anyone and no one was watching how efficiently I performed my service. And but then when Bhavananda Maharaj got to know that, he was very upset that they engaged me in that kind of service. So he called Madhusavita Prabhu, who was the temple commander, and he chastised him for engaging me in that kind of service. Then Madhusavita apologized to me and he told me that the idea actually is that when someone new joins the temple, when someone joins the temple, he is given the menial services just to taste his sincerity. So I told him that I was ready to do anything, and I was happy that I was given that service because I knew that this service is simply to please Krishna. The service is simply for Krishna's pleasure. Therefore, whatever service comes, I was prepared to do. And in Mayapur those days, as I mentioned, there were very few devotees and most of them are Westerners. And I had the good fortune to share a room with a very wonderful devotee. His name was Tirthapad Das Brahmachari. He's an American, and he was a wonderful devotee, very strict with his sadhana. Like he used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then he would not eat breakfast until he finished his 16 rounds. If he could not finish his 16 rounds, he would just won't eat. And not even breakfast, he wouldn't even eat lunch until he finished. And so this is how I had the good fortune of sharing the room with a very, very fixed up devotee. And I was, you can well imagine, I was completely neophyte and just joined. And and my biggest problem was to get up in the morning. At home, I don't think I ever get up before 8 o'clock. And here, I have to attend the Mangalarati at 4:30. And so, anyway, so Tirthapad used to get up at 3 o'clock. Latest 3:30, he would go take his bath, and before going he would wake me up, but I wouldn't get up. I would pretend that I was going to get up, but I'll lie down again. And then when Tirthapad would come back and see me in that, okay, can you all please come forward a little bit? There's a lot of space here, because quite a few devotees are standing outside. Please come forward. Okay. Yeah. So I had difficulty one of the biggest problem I had was getting up in the morning. And then when Tirthapad would come back and see me still lying on bed, then finally what he would do, he would start to pull the mattress out of the bed. And eventually, and I had to practically jump out to not from falling out. And so that is how Tirthapad was actually guiding me in my spiritual life. So Mayapur's situation was quite undeveloped then. We lived in rows of rooms adjacent to the boundary wall at the road in front. How many of you have been to Mayapur? Oh, thank you. So, the walls you have seen from that's two sides of the gate, the wall, and there was on the wall there were rooms, which are now mainly shops. So that used to be the place where we used to stay, and the only building was the conch building, and the temple was at the ground floor, and the deities was small 18 inches Radha Madhav. So, so that was the thing. There was no bathroom or toilet. I'll explain that probably here. We lived in the rows of rooms adjacent to the boundary wall at the road in front, on either side of the main gate. There were no bathrooms. Our only shower was a set of 4 hand pumps on a cemented area in the middle of the open field, and the toilets were holes in the ground surrounded by walls of jute cloth on wooden frames. Actually, bamboo frames. Despite all of this, we were quite content and enthusiastic, and would sit up together until late at night and discuss our realizations and experiences in Krishna consciousness. In the afternoon, due to the tremendous heat, we would remain indoors reading stories from Krishna book or Srimad Bhagavatam. During autumn, the ground would still be wet from the monsoon rain, and the area inhabited by poisonous snakes, vipers, cobras, and kraits. Just walking to the hand pumps and that is in the morning, in dark, to walking to the hand pumps and toilets in front of the middle of in the middle of the fields, one risked death at every step. Though somehow none of the devotees were ever beaten by the snakes. One day I was standing on the back veranda of the Lotus building when I saw a large black cobra, sliding across the paved drive. Suddenly a mongoose ran out and confronted the snake, As soon as the snake saw the mongoose, it angrily hissed and spread its hood. For a few seconds, the two faced off, almost motionless. But then the snake turned and slipped away into the rice paddy, and the mongoose took off in pursuit. So in Mayapur, there were so many snakes we would see, but amazing that not a single devotee got bitten by the snakes. Later on, some devotees got bitten in front of me, and we saw another miracle, or rather amazing thing. Like we didn't know what to do. Like all we did is just tied up with a rope so that the poison wouldn't rise. And we are thinking that the Krishnanagar probably would be the only place to take for treatment. But then somebody told me that there is a person who can cure snake bite. And just next, in the village next door. So we took him. It was early in the morning, during the Mangalartik it happened, or just before the Mangalartik. So we took him, and that man, we woke up the person, and so he just checked it, and he said that the tying up with a rope had been very good. It was very tight, and so that was a good thing. And then he took a piece of bamboo and tied up some cloth and dipped it in kerosene and lit it up. And then he started to chant some mantra and started to hit that place where he got bitten. And he did that for some time. And then he took a pin, burnt it, and then pinched it, made a hole there. And then few drops of black poison just came out. And he got cured. And he told that, if we did not tie it up so nicely, then probably he wouldn't have survived, because the cobra bite, the poison rises very quickly. Anyway, so this is one instance that I remember when a devotee got bitten. Otherwise, no one got bitten. And some devotees are very afraid. There was a devotee, he was so afraid of snakes. He was an American devotee. He was so afraid of snakes that even during the day he used to imagine that there is snakes in his room. So one day Bhavananda Maharaj came and told me, his name was Sitanath. He said, he was tall, thin devotee from California. And he was quite sickly also. Most of the time he was lying in his bed in the room. So one day Bhavananda told him, Sitanath, if you are so afraid of snakes, then you'll never be able to go back to Godhead. Because there Shankarshan is a snake. And that actually gave me a very profound insight. So from then onwards, whenever I thought of a snake, I thought of Sankarshan. After the evening arati, we were sitting in, one day, in the evening we were sitting in Jayapataka Maharaj's room, reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And when Abhimanyu Das, an English devotee, who had been appointed head of the security due to his military training as a commando in the British Army, came running in with an alert that dacoits, bandits, were coming to attack the temple. But Maharaj did not believe him. A little annoyed at being interrupted in the middle of our reading, he said, Abhimanyu, that's just your paranoia. But Abhimanyu was upset and argued his case. Finally, just to pacify him, Jayapataka Maharaj got up and said, okay, let's go and meet the dacoits. Stick in hand, we all followed Maharaj and walked to the main gate. And when we got there, we could see a crowd of people in the distance with burning torches coming our way. As they approached, however, we heard shouts of Bolo Hari, Hari Bol. The customary invocation of the Lord's mercy while carrying a dead body. Like in North India, you all say, Ram Naam Sach Hai. In Bengal, they say, Bolo Hari, Hari Bol. So they were carrying a dead body. He must have been an important person. So a lot of people were coming, and because they were traveling at night, so they had torches in hand. So Abhimanyu thought that the dacoits were coming to attack the temple. And Jayapataka Maharaj knew, he lived there for so long. And he knew there's nothing to be afraid of in a situation like that, at a time like that. And that's why he said, Abhimanyu, it was a paranoia. But Abhimanyu got really upset. So in this way we were spending our time in Mayapur. Then we got the news that Srila Prabhupada was coming. Prabhupada came to Bombay. So as soon as I got the news, I went and told Bhavananda Maharaj that I wanted to go to Bombay to meet Srila Prabhupada. So he told me that, look, Prabhupada's condition is quite unwell, and in Bombay, so Prabhupada is hardly seeing anybody, and in Bombay nobody knows you, so there's no possibility of your meeting Srila Prabhupada in Bombay. Rather you wait, Prabhupada is going to come to Mayapur and you will meet him here. So I accepted that. But then we got the news that Prabhupada went to Kumbh Mela in Allahabad. And so a group of devotees from Mayapur traveled to Kumbh Mela, and I was also included in that team. So this is how we went to Kumbh Mela. It took us 3 days bus ride, and when we arrived in Kumbh Mela site to our camp, it was midday, and I got my assigned tent, and I kept my things and I just ran to meet Srila Prabhupada. I was just dying to meet Srila Prabhupada. So I just ran, and when I came to Prabhupada's tent area, then I saw that area was covered by corrugated tin sheet walls. A wall was created all around, and there was a big-bodied Western devotee guarding the gate. So when I approached, when I tried to go in and I told him that I wanted to see Srila Prabhupada, he said, no, Prabhupada will give darshan in the evening, so you come at that time. So, little disappointed, I was walking back. And then I saw Bhavananda Maharaj carrying a basket of vegetables that he brought from Mayapur to offer to Srila Prabhupada. So he was with a basket in his hand, he was on his shoulder, he was carrying, he was walking quite quickly. So he saw me on the way, and he said, come, I'm going to see Srila Prabhupada. And so I just followed him. So that devotee was guarding, what to speak of stopping, he immediately offered obeisances to Bhavananda Maharaj, and Bhavananda Maharaj walked in and I also followed him. And I ran into Bhavananda Maharaj carrying a basket of vegetables he had brought from Mayapur. Come, he said, I'm going to see Srila Prabhupada. Excited to see Srila Prabhupada, after all, I joined him. When we got to the gate, the guard, recognizing Maharaj, offered his obeisances and stepped aside. As we approached the tent, I got a glimpse of Srila Prabhupada inside, sitting on the floor behind a desk. The light was dim inside, so I could not see clearly, but Prabhupada's saffron form was enough to fill my heart with joy. I had been waiting for years for this moment. I felt that I had achieved the ultimate goal of my life. Tears sprang from my eyes as I fell flat on the ground and offered my obeisances. For how long, I don't know. When I rose, dazed and overwhelmed, I moved to go inside, But Rameshwar Swami, Srila Prabhupada's secretary, stopped me and said that Srila Prabhupada was taking his lunch and that I should not enter. My reverie broken, I snapped back to the reality of my surroundings, both terribly disappointed and regretful. Why did I offer obeisances from outside? I chided myself. Why had I not entered with Bhavananda Maharaj and bowed down inside? It would have been fine and no one would have stopped me. Again, I turned for my tent with a heavy heart. I was starting to realize that it was not so easy to get close to Srila Prabhupada. He had thousands of disciples all over the world, and many were highly qualified and had been serving him for years. Who was I compared to them? I had only just joined and had hardly rendered any service. Accepting the reality of my situation, I decided not to try to approach Srila Prabhupada directly. I would admire him, worship him, and serve him from a distance. So, since then, I did not try to go near Srila Prabhupada. Like in the morning, Prabhupada used to give Bhagavatam class, I used to attend the class. In the evenings, Prabhupada used to give darshan, and I used to attend the darshan. So I just decided I'm not going to. I realized my position. That Prabhupada had thousands of disciples, they are so qualified, and who was I? So just one among those thousands. So thinking that, I stopped. And I left. And that day, Sridhar Maharaj was organizing the book distribution. So I went out distributing books, and it was ecstatic. In Kumbh Mela, it was a very pious situation, holy place. People are very pious who came. So they all were very open to receive books. So I was very excited distributing books. And then I got quite late. I completely forgot that Prabhupada was going to give darshan in the evening. So I just ran back when I realized. When I came back to my senses, I saw Srila Prabhupada. Then I entered into the tent where Prabhupada was giving the darshan. Tent was packed, and I somehow just managed to enter there. And that's the first time I got a glimpse of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was sitting there, effulgent as ever. And when I came back to my senses, I saw Srila Prabhupada just as he had appeared in my first dream, brilliant as the sun, sitting on a Vasasan that looked very much like a throne. He sat upright on the Vasasan in a lotus position, with a beautiful flower garland around his neck, chin slightly raised, looking over the crowd, a transcendental aristocrat, fully confident in the knowledge of Krishna that he was about to disseminate. His glorious sight filled my heart with a tremendous joy and made me feel as if I had achieved the ultimate perfection of my life, as if I reached the goal of my existence. People were asking him questions, and he answered them all in Hindi, because most of the people there were Hindi speaking, and they were asking him in Hindi with the ease and confidence of authority. Some of the questions were quite challenging and even unpleasant. One respectable-looking middle-aged man asked, "Why are you building all these new temples when there are so many old temples needing repair?" So that time, it was around that time that the Krishna Balaram temple opened, and it created quite a sensation. Like it was a grand temple, in Vrindavan. There was no temple like that. And so he's thinking, as you know, in Vrindavan there are many old temples. His point was, these old temples are there, so why don't you renovate them or repair them instead of building new temples? So, in a rather challenging way, he asked that question. Srila Prabhupada did not answer him directly. He asked the man, who is that lady sitting next to you? She's my wife. Why did you get married? Prabhupada asked. The man paused, considering how to respond. Srila Prabhupada continued, Putrarthe kriyate bharja. One accepts a wife in order to have children. But why do you want to have children when there are so many orphan children loitering in the streets? Then Prabhupada said, just as you want to have your own children, the devotees of the Lord want to build temples for Him in order to show Him their love. The man had nothing more to say. So, in this way, Prabhupada was giving evening darshans and morning classes. One very interesting thing happened one day. Before the class, we used to have the Guru Puja, Prabhupada's Guru Puja. And an ecstatic kirtan was going on with about 300 devotees, bouncing up and down, in ecstasy. And the devotee was leading a fantastic kirtan. Then all of a sudden the devotee started to sing Bhaja Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada immediately stopped the kirtan with a shout. And then he screamed, where did you learn this Bhaja Hare Krishna? He said, did you ever hear me sing like that? Where did you learn it? Prabhupada was screaming at the pitch of his voice. And then Prabhupada said that Hare Krishna Mahamantra should be chanted just as it is. No subtraction and no addition. Just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that was a wonderful lesson we all learned at that time. That no addition, no subtraction, just the pure mantra. So this way we are spending our days in Kumbh Mela. Quite ecstatic. That also reminds me, on the auspicious occasion of taking bath, like you go to Kumbh Mela to take bath at a certain time when the water of the river actually turns into nectar. And taking bath, is considered to be very auspicious, like you are bathing in nectar and you are achieving immortality. So, but you know what Prabhupada did? Prabhupada sent 2 devotees to get 2 bucket full of water. It was brought, and Prabhupada took a bath with water in front of his tent. Prabhupada was not at all into this kind of rituals and things. Prabhupada's going to Kumbh Mela was simply for the sake of preaching. People were coming, so he was imparting the knowledge, not to... Because Prabhupada's understanding was very clear. The understanding that Prabhupada gave us is very clear. That Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the greatest spiritual activity. When you take shelter of the holy name, chant the holy name, you won't have to worry about anything else. Except Nirjala Ekadasi. Then one day, after the Bhagavatam class, it was announced that Prabhupada was going to leave that night. All of Prabhupada was supposed to stay we are under the impression that Prabhupada was going to stay through the whole period of Kumbh Mela. But that day, all of a sudden, the news came that Prabhupada was going to leave Kumbh Mela that night. So we just, at least I thought, I accepted it, Prabhupada. Whatever Prabhupada wants, he can do. And so after the Bhagavatam, but after the class, when I was walking to my tent, or maybe I was in my tent, Bhavananda Maharaj came to me and he told me, Srila Prabhupada is going to leave Kumbh Mela tonight. Yes, I replied, I heard. But I was shocked by what he had said next. He mentioned, a small group of devotees will be traveling with him, and you have been included in that team. I could not believe my ears. I was so excited and happy, I practically started to dance. The thought that I would be traveling on the same train with Srila Prabhupada made me feel like the most fortunate person in the world. All I could do was thank Maharaj again and again. We left that night on a first-class carriage, hooked onto a train bound for Calcutta. The entire carriage was meant for Srila Prabhupada and his entourage, 14 devotees, and I was one of them. Hundreds of devotees came to the station to see Prabhupada off, waving their hands and offering obeisances. I stood at the carriage door, waving back, feeling a little proud over my good fortune. Once the train started, we all took rest. The next morning, after bathing, I was chanting in my compartment, when Bhavananda Maharaj came in and said, "Come, I'll take you to Srila Prabhupada." I had been dying to meet Srila Prabhupada ever since arriving in Mayapur. But now, as Maharaj presented me with the immediate opportunity, I felt unqualified. I was afraid that Prabhupada would look right through me, into my heart, and see all the dirt, all the sinful activities that I had committed. He would reject me, refuse to give me the shelter of his lotus feet. I had heard that there were devotees who had been waiting for years to be initiated by him, but had not yet been accepted. Bhavananda seemed to understand what was going on in my mind. He just grabbed my hand, dragged me along the corridor, opened Prabhupada's door, and pushed me in. Inside, I fell flat on the floor, offering my obeisances. When I got up, Srila Prabhupada was looking at me, smiling sweetly, and asked me to sit next to him. On the seat facing him were Jayapataka Maharaj, Rameshwar Maharaj, and Bhavananda. Abhiram Prabhu, the Calcutta temple president, was sitting on the floor. I hesitated to accept Srila Prabhupada's offer, saying that I too would sit on the floor. But he insisted, "No, you sit here." So I folded a corner of the blanket spread over the seat and sat on its very edge. Then, after some initial exchanges, Srila Prabhupada gave me a direct instruction: "You translate my books into Bengali." My heart was just jumping with joy, but I was uncertain. "Srila Prabhupada," I said, "I do not have any experience in translating from English to Bengali. Will I be able to do it properly?" "Just do it," he assured me. "Practice makes a man perfect." When I left the room, I had to pinch myself to make sure I was not dreaming. I could not believe my good fortune. At our very first meeting, Srila Prabhupada had given me this incredible service. I knew that he considered the publication and distribution of his books to be of utmost importance. And I had heard that because many of them had also been presented in Bengali by our previous acharyas, he was specially particular about the Bengali translation. I just kept on praying to Krishna that I could fulfill my responsibility and execute his instruction. So then Prabhupada came to Calcutta, and so there one day, one evening, Prabhupada was giving darshan. Many important people used to come to see Srila Prabhupada. because Prabhupada, they knew Srila Prabhupada from before also. And so one day after giving the darshan, Srila Prabhupada, when the aratik started, Srila Prabhupada told them to go and attend the aratik. So I also left the room with everyone else. And when I was standing in the aratik, it occurred to me that aratik I can attend every day, but Prabhupada's association won't be that readily available. So I left the aratik and went to Prabhupada's room. So as I knocked at the door and opened the door, Srila Prabhupada said, "So, what do you want?" So I said, "Prabhupada, I just wanted to be with you." And Prabhupada said, "Come on." And when I sat down, Prabhupada said, "So, what do you want?" So I asked Srila Prabhupada with my heart really pounding, "Srila Prabhupada, will you please give me initiation?" Prabhupada said, "Sure, I'll give you initiation. During the Gaur Purnima festival in Mayapur, I'll give you initiation." So then Prabhupada went to Bhubaneswar, and he stayed in Bhubaneswar for about 2 weeks, and then he came back to Mayapur. So I was there, and so Prabhupada arrived in Mayapur, and it was so wonderful. Every morning Prabhupada was giving classes, in the evening Prabhupada was giving darshan, and I was practically every day I was going to Srila Prabhupada to read out what I translated. And Prabhupada used to correct me, and sometimes used to appreciate the translation. And then one day Srila Prabhupada gave me a stack of Bengali letters, and he asked me to reply them in Bengali. The way Prabhupada wanted me to reply his letters was like I would read the letters to him, and then Prabhupada would give the points, and based on those points, I used to write the letter and come to Srila Prabhupada and read them out to him. And Prabhupada would make corrections, and then then I used to make the final draft and final letter on his letterhead, and then Prabhupada used to sign. So this is how I started to answer his letters. And then when I finished a stack of Bengali letters, Prabhupada gave me a stack of Hindi letters and asked me to reply them. And so that's how it was happening. And I was spending time, and then devotees started to come from the west. And one morning I saw a bright-looking personality walking with Bhavananda Maharaj. There was something striking about the devotee. I just could not keep my eyes off him. Tirthopad Prabhu, who was standing next to me, said that it was Tamal Krishna Goswami. He is one of the most prominent leaders of our movement, he told me. I had already heard about Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He was a hero of ISKCON. He had joined in San Francisco when the movement was in its infancy, and almost right away assumed a leadership role. Since then, Srila Prabhupada had called on him to lead his most important projects. When the movement was growing on the West Coast, Srila Prabhupada made him the temple president of the Los Angeles temple. When ISKCON spread to England and George Harrison became involved, Srila Prabhupada sent him there. When Krishna consciousness was gaining a foothold in India, Srila Prabhupada made him the governing body commissioner there. And when Srila Prabhupada experienced difficulties in getting land in Mayapur, it was Tamal Krishna Maharaj who overcame the difficulties and acquired the land. Then he organized the greatest book distribution and devotee-making program in ISKCON, the Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party, which was distributing thousands of books and making hundreds of devotees. So that is how I first met I saw Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And so in this way, I got to know Tamal Krishna Maharaj also, because he was very close to Srila Prabhupada and I was already rendering service to Srila Prabhupada. And from the very beginning, we just developed a very nice relationship. He was very affectionate towards me, and I naturally had my spontaneous respect for him. Then the time came for Gaur Purnima. And 3 days before Gaur Purnima, Brahmananda Swami, who was serving as Srila Prabhupada's secretary, told me that Prabhupada had decided to give me first and second initiation together. Boy, you're fortunate, he said that. I don't think anyone has received such mercy. The news came to me as both a big surprise and a great delight. Srila Prabhupada generally gave the Hare Krishna mantra, Maha Mantra, as the first initiation, and then after a year or so gave the Gayatri mantra, the second initiation, to deserving candidates. I knew devotees who had been in the movement for many years and still not received second initiation, and I felt deep gratitude to Srila Prabhupada for bestowing such a mercy upon me. I also felt thankful to Brahmananda Maharaj, and when I offered him my obeisances, he embraced me affectionately. When I asked what I needed to do to prepare myself for the initiation, he smiled and said, just get shaved and be ready to receive the mercy. So in this way, during the Gaur Purnima, very mercifully Srila Prabhupada gave me first and second initiation. And that time, at the time of initiation, Prabhupada did not come to the downstairs to the initiation ceremony. But different sannyasis, there was a group of sannyasis sitting on a raised platform, and they were calling the devotees. There were more than 100 devotees, candidates to receive initiation. And they were giving, on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, they were giving the Japamala and the name. It was Achyutananda Maharaj. I don't know whether you all know him. He was another very brilliant devotee. He actually gave me the Brahman initiation. The Japamala, and told me the name, Kshir Chor Gopinath Das. And then I went upstairs and got the second initiation mantra. And then I just kept on serving Srila Prabhupada, replying his letter, translating Bhagavad Gita. And one morning, after I had taken dictation from Srila Prabhupada and had him sign completed letters, he told me, I am appointing you as my secretary for Indian affairs. I was surprised to say the least. I had been told that Srila Prabhupada appointed only his most intimate and efficient associates as his secretaries. But I was just a new devotee, and he has given me the most exalted assignment in his service. I felt an incredible joy and overwhelming gratitude. Srila Prabhupada called Tamal Krishna Maharaj and told him about the new appointment and suggested that I move into the secretary's room where Maharaj was staying. Tamal Krishna Maharaj put an affectionate hand over my shoulder, said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada," and took me to the room, 2 doors down. The room next to Srila Prabhupada's had been intended to be his secretary's room, but the typewriter had made too much noise, so Prabhupada had suggested that his servant move into that room and his secretary take the room next door, next to that. There were 2 beds. Maharaj said I could use the one at the far end of the room and told me to fetch my belongings. When I informed my dear friend and roommate Tirthapad about my new service and that I had been asked by Srila Prabhupada to share his secretary's room with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was silent for a while, as if lost in deep thought. Then he told me that he had always felt that I was very special, and he embraced me and thanked me for my association as his roommate. I could see that he was feeling bad, and I knew that I would also miss him. It was quite an experience to be so close to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Although we were sharing a room, I still looked up to him with awe and reverence. In fact, he commanded this kind of respect from practically everyone in ISKCON. But he treated me with warmth and affection. I would bow down to him with respect, and he would embrace me with affection. He had been my hero even before I had met him, and this closeness was like a dream, one that I never imagined would come true. Maharaj awake every early morning, but he did not switch on the light so as not to disturb me. When he was in the bathroom, however, he would play tapes of Srila Prabhupada's lectures, and that would inevitably wake me up. I would just lie in bed listening to Prabhupada's transcendental voice until Maharaj was done, and at which time I would jump out of the bed and get ready for the day. Maharaj was extremely regulated and organized, rising every day at 3 to bathe and then chant his rounds. He would finish all his rounds and be ready to serve Srila Prabhupada by dawn. He organized me also, insisting that I have a specific time for translation, replying to Prabhupada's letters and attending to his divine grace by just being around him in case he needed anything. Sharing a room with Maharaj was one of my most memorable experiences in ISKCON. He always treated me lovingly and trained me expertly to serve Srila Prabhupada at the highest standard I could imagine. He also arranged my schedule in such a way that I had enough time to translate Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. In his presence, I was constantly learning new and important things about Krishna consciousness and serving Srila Prabhupada. Because of his seniority, I desired to serve him too, but he always refused. Whenever I tried to serve him prasad, he would insist on my taking prasad with him. Although he would get very upset and chastise a devotee if he served incorrectly, he never chastised me. When I related my experience to Bhavananda Maharaj, he commented with a smile, "You are fortunate. Tamal is known for his temper." That is why he is called Hat Tamale. Anyway, I can see that he has accepted you as his man. That is Tamal. When he likes somebody, he will do anything for him. And you are one of those fortunate souls who has won his favor. I was delighted to hear this and told him, you are also one of those fortunate souls. I noticed what a deep friendship you have with him. Maharaj smiled and said, "Yes, that's true. We developed a deep friendship from the first time we met. He is a real person with a golden heart. That is why Srila Prabhupada loves him so much." So, in this way, we are serving Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was the main person, his main secretary, and we were always there. Mainly, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was his secretary, and Hari Sori Prabhu was his personal servant, and I was there. So at that time, there was some problem in Australia with the GBC there. He had some difficulties, and he was a sannyasi, and he had some difficulties. He got married and he left. And so the consideration was that Harisori Prabhu Prabhupada was thinking of sending Harisori Prabhu to become the GBC of Australia. And so then that time there was a consideration who would become Prabhupada's personal servant. And Harisori was pushing me to become the personal servant. And I told him whatever Srila Prabhupada decided. But I knew one thing, that Prabhupada's servant had to know how to give good massage. And Prabhupada liked a strong massage. And I knew I was not able to give that kind of massage. So I knew that was one of my disqualification. That way Harisori Prabhu had always been pushing me to kind of get more involved in Prabhupada's personal service. One day Harisori Prabhu came and asked me whether I knew how to cook. So when I was in Germany, sometimes I used to cook, and I used to invite some friends, and they all appreciated my cooking. And so with that experience, or with that in mind, I felt okay. I told him that yes, I know how to cook, but I didn't know what was in his mind. So he went and told Prabhupada that I knew how to cook. So Prabhupada said, okay, then tell him to cook for me today. So Harisori just came to me and said, Prabhupada wanted you to cook for him today. And when he said that, I realized that I don't really know how to cook. And because I knew to cook for Srila Prabhupada, one had to be really expert. So I didn't know, I was completely shattered, and I didn't know what to do. And at that time, Prabhupada's sister, Pishima, was there. And everybody knew that Pishima was a fantastic cook, one of the best cooks in the world. So I went and told Pishima that Prabhupada asked me to cook, and I didn't know how to cook, so whether she could help me. So she said, sure. And she just came with me to the kitchen. And she started to prepare everything. She didn't even let me touch one thing. I just stood there watching. And she cooked so many different items. And she made the plate also. And so I took the plate. And went to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada just had a look at it and asked who cooked. So I said, Prabhupada, Pishima cooked. Then Prabhupada said, did I ask Pishima to cook or you to cook? And I didn't know what to say. I just stood there. And Prabhupada said, take it away. I didn't know what to do, and I just begged Srila Prabhupada, please. So that was my first experience in cooking for Srila Prabhupada. And and I was feeling so bad that I missed that golden opportunity. And actually when I told Pishima, I expected that she would show me how to cook. But she didn't even consider that I was existing and standing there. So she just took over the whole kitchen and started to cook. Anyway, so after the Gaur Purnima, Srila Prabhupada stayed in Mayapur for some time. Then Giriraj Maharaj organized a program for Srila Prabhupada in Bombay. And he wrote to him that in Bombay, in Cross Maidan, 5-day-long program has been arranged. And so Prabhupada decided to go to Bombay. So everybody knew that Prabhupada was going to leave. And I was took it for granted that, I'm in Prabhupada's team and I would be going with Srila Prabhupada. But then one day Babananda came to me and told me that, look, you have so much to do in Mayapur. So you better stay back in Mayapur. You don't go with Prabhupada. And Bhavananda Maharaj had done so much for me, I could not really say no to him. But although my heart was just breaking when he started to speak to me like that. And then to console me, he just said, service in separation is the real service. And so this way he just kind of was trying to enliven me. But my heart was totally broken. But I couldn't say anything. I just accepted whatever he said. And I just kept on serving Srila Prabhupada. My serving means, I used to just read my translation, reply letters, and then just be around just in case Prabhupada needed something. And just the day before Prabhupada was about to leave, Prabhupada asked me, "Aren't you coming?" So I said, "No, Srila Prabhupada. Bhavananda Maharaj told me that I have so much to do in Mayapur, and service in separation is better than service in personal service." Then Prabhupada said, "Yeah, that may be, but when your spiritual master wants you to serve him, then I think you should come with him." And I just ran to Bhavananda, offered obeisance and ran to Bhavananda and told him what Prabhupada said. And he said, "Yes, if Prabhupada wants you to come, then yeah, sure, you should go with him." And then I jokingly told him, and Prabhupada told me that you have to pay for my fare. So then we went to Bombay. Prabhupada arrived in Bombay. When Prabhupada came to Bombay, he was taken to his old quarters. That was in one of the buildings that were already there. And so when the car drove in there, Prabhupada refused. Prabhupada asked, "Why did you bring me here?" Prabhupada wanted to stay in his new apartment. The Bombay temple has the two towers. On top of one tower was Prabhupada's quarters. So Prabhupada wanted to go there. He thought that the apartment was ready for him, and the place was ready for him. But it was not ready. That's why they thought that Prabhupada have to stay in that building. But Prabhupada insisted. He refused to get out of the car. And so the car had to reverse back into that place. And Prabhupada got her. Fortunately, the lift was working. So Prabhupada went there. The place was not at all ready. The place was, the doors were not fixed. Many doors were not fixed. The toilets and basins were not fixed. But Prabhupada's asana was there, so Prabhupada sat there. And as if Prabhupada settled down. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Giriraj Maharaj and Surabhi Maharaj consulted what to do, like the place is not ready, it's not fit for Prabhupada to live there. And so Tamal Krishna Maharaj, as brilliant as he is, he came up with an idea. He said, the program for next few days is in Bombay city. So to drive from Juhu to Bombay is a long drive. So why don't we arrange for Prabhupada to stay in the city and attend the programs, and then after the program is over, then Prabhupada can come back, and by that time the apartment will be ready. So the first person they called was Bhogilal Patel, a multimillionaire who had a palace in Bombay. Prabhupada stayed at his place once. But unfortunately, Bhogilal was not in Bombay at that time. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj, the Giriraj Maharaj actually called up Kartikeya Mahadeviya, another very close associate of Srila Prabhupada in Bombay, who had a very nice apartment in a very prestigious complex called Sea Face, right on the beach. And Kartikeya Mahadeviya was so nice that he moved out of his apartment, large luxurious apartment with 5-6 bedrooms. And so he moved out of his apartment and with his family moved into, I think, his brother's apartment in the same complex. And he vacated the entire apartment for Srila Prabhupada. And we stayed there. Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Bhavananda Maharaj and myself. When Harisori Prabhu left, Bhavananda Maharaj took up that service. And Upendra Prabhu at that time was in Fiji, and he was asked to come to India and assume that service. So while Upendra Prabhu did not arrive, Bhavananda was serving Srila Prabhupada as his personal servant. So 3 of us was there with Srila Prabhupada in Kartikeya Mahadeviya's house. And every evening Prabhupada would go to the program and give lecture. So one evening, while looking over the crowd, Srila Prabhupada noticed an Arab gentleman dressed in traditional Arabic attire. He asked Bhavananda Maharaj to bring the man onto the stage and then had him sit on a chair next to him and spoke to him affectionately. He was, it turned out, the chief of police of Kuwait. He had come to Bombay for medical treatment, and that evening was the first time he had been allowed out of the hospital. While strolling in the park, he had seen the gathering and out of curiosity walked over to see what was happening. Srila Prabhupada noticed that, and Srila Prabhupada called him onto the stage, and it was such a wonderful sight. Like, here is an eminent Indian spiritual leader in a program with thousands, maybe about 10,000 people, and next to him is a Muslim gentleman dressed in Arabic attire. It's such a striking sight. Srila Prabhupada noticed that the man had a set of beads in his hands and asked about them. The man said that he just fiddled around with them. They did not have any specific purpose. But then Srila Prabhupada pulled his beads out from his bag and said, "See, I also have one." And they both laughed. The beads were sacred, Srila Prabhupada told him. They were used for chanting the holy names of the Lord. They should be kept in a bag so that they would not become contaminated. Prabhupada did not engage in heavy philosophical discussion with him. They just had a cordial and affectionate exchange. But I could not help wonder what a deep impression Srila Prabhupada must have left in him. I also was impressed to see Srila Prabhupada, an exalted Hindu spiritual leader, invite a Middle Eastern Muslim to sit next to him at such an important and visible program. It conveyed a powerful message that ISKCON was non-sectarian. It welcomed everyone, whoever was open to learning the teachings of the Vedas and was interested to know about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and established loving relationship with Him could join, irrespective of caste, creed, or religion. When Prabhupada was in Bombay, Mother Palika, one of her god sisters, American god sisters, she used to cook. She was a very nice, saintly lady. She was actually Bhavananda's ex-wife. And Palika was cooking for Srila Prabhupada. She used to cook and I used to carry the prasad to Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada would eat the prasad, and then I would take the plate and bring the bowl of water for Prabhupada to wash his mouth. And then I would go to the kitchen and wash the pots. And Prabhupada would sit there. And then Upendra Prabhu used to come and take him to the bed. So one day, Palika was sick. And another god sister of ours was asked to cook. But when she cooked and I served, Srila Prabhupada couldn't eat. I could see that Prabhupada just took a bite and couldn't eat it. So I asked Srila Prabhupada, the prasad was not all right. Prabhupada said, no, she doesn't know how to cook. So I said, Prabhupada, should I cook for you tomorrow? Prabhupada said, yes, you can try. So this is how I got a chance. Prabhupada said, yes, you can try. And then the next morning, Prabhupada asked me to bring a few items. Potatoes, you all know parval? Parval, and mustard oil. We are carrying the big can of mustard oil to be for Prabhupada's body massage. Prabhupada asked us to bring that oil. And Prabhupada asked me to bring turmeric and red chili whole. So I brought them. Prabhupada showed me how to cut the potatoes into pieces about 3/4 of an inch, and cut the parval, scrape the parval's outer skin with the back of the knife. Just rub it and scraped it out. And then cut them in slices, similar size of the potatoes. And then Prabhupada asked me to, I have been told to continue today through the Aratik. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki Jai Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki Jai. Maybe we can make a passage for the devotees who want to have darshan, can go that way. So, so Prabhupada told me to put the turmeric powder. So I put a lot of turmeric. And then he asked me to break the chilies into pieces, about 1 inch long pieces. So put a lot of chili. And then Prabhupada asked me to pour the mustard oil. So I was pouring, and I poured a lot of mustard oil, and I felt that maybe Prabhupada is not seeing, so he didn't know when to stop. He forgot to tell me when to stop. So I stopped pouring the oil. Then Prabhupada shouted at me, why did you stop pouring? Keep pouring. So I just kept on pouring the mustard oil and poured a lot of mustard oil. Then Prabhupada said, now stop. Then Prabhupada told me to put salt in it and put water to just cover it up to the surface of the vegetables. And then put it on the flame and let it cook. And he said then the water will evaporate and white smoke will start coming. And there will be and it will start making a sound like chut 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 chut. So when it starts making the sound, then you took it off the fire and cool it for some time. When it cooled, then you scrape it from the bottom. So Prabhupada just told me and I just cooked it. And then when I served, Prabhupada ate, and I cooked a few other preparations also. Yeah, I learned to cook those preparations from a small little cookbook that came along with the pressure cooker that was purchased. The Hawkins pressure cooker, and along with that came a cookbook. So I used the cookbook and learned a few preps, and anyway. So then I served, Prabhupada ate, and I took the plates, brought it to the kitchen. I was washing the pots and everything. So Upendra came running to me after putting Prabhupada to his bed. He said, "Hey, what did you cook? Srila Prabhupada told me to come and taste it." And so I served him. Then that afternoon, Tamal Krishna Maharaj used to go to Prabhupada at 3 o'clock with the letters and read them out to Srila Prabhupada. So that was his program every day. So he came and he told me that how much Srila Prabhupada was appreciating my cooking. So I was really excited about it. But the next day, when I cooked and took the plate, Prabhupada took a bite and told me, "You don't have any standard." One day you cook nicely and I praise you, and the next day you are gone. And I was completely devastated. And so the day after that, I cooked very carefully, try to make it as nice as possible. And then I served, and I could see that Prabhupada was eating. So I got some confidence when I saw that Prabhupada was eating. So I told Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, was the cooking all right today?" Prabhupada said, "Yes, today it was all right." Then I told Prabhupada, I was so afraid and I was so much in anxiety. Then Prabhupada said, "When you are serving your spiritual master, you should be afraid and should be in anxiety." So I was, yesterday many devotees after the class, after the session, asked me who was Prashun, my friend that has been mentioned there. So I should have mentioned actually his initiated name was Sarvabhavana Prabhu. How many of you know him? Okay. He is my old friend that we left India together. And in Germany also we spent time together. He joined in Germany, and yesterday I mentioned how he came to meet me, and through him only I went to the temple. So Prabhupada's quarters were on the 5th floor, and we three were just serving Srila Prabhupada. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Upendra Prabhu and myself. And because Prabhupada's health condition was not so good, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was very protective. Like he didn't want many devotees to come. And so only when some senior devotees had some pressing business, he used to come to meet Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, that place was completely cut off. So that also reminds me, because throughout the day we are just stuck in that apartment. It's not an apartment, it's a huge Prabhupada's quarters with many rooms and large areas for Prabhupada to give darshan, and his bedroom and so forth. So one day I told Srila Prabhupada, asked Srila Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, can I practice some yogasana?" yoga asana. Prabhupada asked why. So I told him that I am here and I don't get any exercise. So I thought if I could do some yoga. Then Prabhupada told me not to. And Prabhupada said, go to the ocean and have a bath, have a swim. Because the Bombay temple is just next to the ocean. So that's one instruction that I got from Srila Prabhupada. When I asked Prabhupada whether I could learn Sanskrit, Prabhupada discouraged me. When I asked Prabhupada as here whether I could practice yoga, physical exercise, Prabhupada discouraged me and rather told me, you go to the ocean and have a swim. Anyway, so standing on the balcony one morning, I saw Sarvabhavana Prabhu downstairs. Excited, I ran down to meet him. He was happy to see me as well. And when we embraced warmly. He had come to Bombay about 10 days before, he said, to take charge of the householder community. He was actually given to lead the householder community there. You came 10 days ago and you didn't even come to see me? I exclaimed. He smiled and said, the ivory tower where you live, ordinary devotees like me don't have access there. Yes, I know, I said. Srila Prabhupada's health is not so good. That's why Tamal Krishna Maharaj wants him to relax and does not want him to do anything besides translating. Yes, he remarked, concern in his voice. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki Jai. Yes, he remarked, concern in his voice, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj very carefully decides who is allowed to see him. He paused. I got some gifts for Srila Prabhupada, some silver cups and plates, but I did not get a chance to give them to him. I assured him that I would speak to Tamal Krishna Maharaj and took him to the ivory tower. Maharaj was with Srila Prabhupada, so we waited for him to come out. And then I introduced Sarvabhavana to him and told him about our intimate relationship. When I told him that Sarvabhavana had some gifts for Srila Prabhupada, he asked him to fetch them. Excited, Sarvabhavana ran to get them. So, staying in Bombay for some time, when Prabhupada's health condition was quite bad, so one day, two very important persons came to see Srila Prabhupada. One of them was Sriman Narayan. He was the ex-governor of Madras, and his brother-in-law, Ramkrishna Bajaj, the head of the Bajaj Industries. And they were very fond of Srila Prabhupada and used to come to see Srila Prabhupada from time to time. So they came one day, and seeing Srila Prabhupada's health condition, they suggested that Prabhupada went for a change. That's the expression they used. That Srila Prabhupada, why don't you go for a change? And they suggested that Prabhupada went to Rishikesh on the foothills of the Himalayas, on the bank of the Ganges. So Prabhupada liked the idea. Prabhupada said, yes, I never been to Rishikesh, and the water from the Ganges will cure me. And so a small team of us, 3 of us, traveled with Srila Prabhupada from Bombay to Delhi, and from Delhi we drove to Rishikesh. And when we arrived in Rishikesh, Prabhupada wanted some water to drink. So Upendra Prabhu brought some water from the pitcher that was in the kitchen. And Prabhupada commented, did I come to Rishikesh? Did I come here to drink tap water? So I got the point. So I immediately ran down to the Ganga and got some water from the Ganga and gave it to Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada appreciated that and drank it. So, and as long as Prabhupada was there, Prabhupada was just taking Ganga water, drinking Ganga water, unfiltered. Like one thing with Ganga water, that even though Ganga water has a lot of sediment, but if you keep the water for overnight, then all the sediments settle at the bottom and the water becomes crystal clear. That's how Prabhupada wanted us to do that. Like, of course, in Rishikesh, the Ganga didn't have so much sediment. But still, the water used to become crystal clear. Ganga water, as you know, is kind of saffron, as they say, from the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord. And one unique aspect of Ganga water is that we noticed, that overnight if you keep it, the sand and sediments at the bottom, and then you can serve the pure water. So Prabhupada was drinking that water. And so this is how we are spending our time in Rishikesh. I was not only cooking for Prabhupada, I was cooking for everyone there. Because a small group was there. A few sannyasis were there also. Trivikram Maharaj came earlier to make arrangements before Prabhupada came. And along with him were two South American sannyasis, Pramana Swami and Viraha Prakash Swami. Then Pradyumna Prabhu, Prabhupada's Sanskrit editor, was there. And so this is how we had a small group there. That reminds me, one Ekadasi, we did not know that it was Ekadasi, and we took some grain in the morning for breakfast. Today's Ekadasi, that's why I remembered that incident. So we took some grains, and when I told Prabhupada that we didn't know, later on we got to know that it was Ekadasi. So Prabhupada told, okay, so observe Ekadasi tomorrow. So that is one thing that we also learned from Srila Prabhupada. If by chance you miss Ekadasi, fast the next day, observe the Ekadasi next day. And another thing I'm sure you all know, that no matter how many Ekadasis you have failed to observe, just observe this Nirjala Ekadasi and you'll get the benefit of observing all the Ekadasis throughout the year. So that's why Nirjala Ekadasi is so important. So, then, and that day, although Prabhupada did not take anything, he also did not observe Ekadasi, and he observed Ekadasi the next day. And incidentally, I learnt another thing from Haribhakti Vilas. It says that those who are below 8 and above 80 don't need to observe Ekadasi. And although Prabhupada was above 80, but still Prabhupada was observing Ekadasi, just to teach us and encourage us. So, and in this way we are spending our time in Rishikesh. And Prabhupada used to give darshan in the evening. And many people used to come. It's a holy place, so many pilgrims used to come, sincere Sikhs used to come for Prabhupada darshan. And like sometimes it used to go on till quite late. So Trivikram Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj decided that we should make a policy that Prabhupada would give darshan only for 1 hour, from 5 to 6. And then we would ask everybody to go. And so that's how we were doing it. And after that darshan broke, then sometimes if there was some curious, interested person, other devotees used to go, senior devotees, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Trivikram Maharaj and the sannyasis used to preach to them. So one day, mind you, I was just a new devotee, joined a practically a few months ago. So one day, I saw one youngish, nice sadhu dressed in saffron. Must be from North India, probably from Punjab. And so I started to speak to him. I thought I would preach to him. And while we were discussing, in course of our discussion, it turned out that he was an impersonalist. So I started to preach to him, smashing impersonalism and establishing the personal concept. And I cited the verse, Badanti tat tattvavidas tattvam, Jajganam advayam, Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdate. So I was telling him that how the initial approach when one makes through the trying to analyze the absolute or trying to understand and find the absolute through the material approach, the answer is not this, not this, not this. So this neti ultimately takes him to the point, if he is fortunate, to perceive the Brahma Jyoti beyond this material nature. And then when he realizes this Brahma Jyoti is actually the dead end, it's kind of blinded him. Just as one person when from darkness goes into the glaring sunlight of midday, he becomes blinded, one becomes blinded. And then he turns his search inward. And that inward search leads him to see the super soul in the heart, Paramatma in the heart. Then he sees the Lord in the heart as the Paramatma. And then when he surrenders to the Paramatma and begins to render devotional service, then he sees him as Bhagavan. So I tried to explain that. And then the person left, I went down. Prabhupada used to live in the upstairs and we used to live downstairs in that building. So I came downstairs and Upendra came and told me, Prabhupada is calling you. Then it occurred to me that I was speaking to that person just next to Srila Prabhupada's room. And my voice was quite loud. So Prabhupada must have heard me. And now Prabhupada is going to chastise me. And really quite apprehensive and nervous, I went to Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada asked, so what are we doing? So I said, Prabhupada, I was preaching. Prabhupada said, what were you preaching? So then I tried to explain to Prabhupada, repeating what I told that man. And Prabhupada was silent for a moment. And so I was just sitting there in anticipation. Then I asked Srila Prabhupada, for some time Prabhupada didn't say anything. So I asked Srila Prabhupada, did I say anything wrong? Prabhupada said, no, you preached very nicely. And so sometimes in the afternoons we used to get the free time. I used to get the free time. Like in the morning I was cooking breakfast. Then after breakfast I cooked lunch. So the morning I could hardly chant. So often I used to chant in the afternoon. So one afternoon when Upendra was attending Srila Prabhupada, Tamal Krishna Maharaj invited me to join him for a walk. We took a winding path through the forest, crossed Lakshman Jhula, the iron suspension bridge that stretched across the Ganges, and followed the road uphill until we had reached a boulder facing the river. The late day sun bathed the foothills with its golden rays, and the only sounds were the rumbling of the river below, and the light chirping of birds. For a while we just sat in silence, appreciating the serenity. Then Maharaj commented, "You are so fortunate to have taken birth in India. Just by being born here, you are naturally so close to spiritual culture. The West is so degraded, there is no concept of purity there." "I may have been born in India," I said, "but I was brought up with the conviction that the West is the best. Sometimes I even wished I was born in the West." "That may be," Tamal Krishna Maharaj commented, "but your environment did not allow you to degrade so much. You can't imagine how degraded we were." Then I told him, the other day a devotee came to see Srila Prabhupada. He was lamenting how degraded he was. But Srila Prabhupada told him that this was superficial. Since as soon as Prabhupada had called him, the devotee had come and joined him. Yes, Maharaj remembered, that was Bhavabhuti. You have been sent by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to assist Srila Prabhupada, I said. You are not an ordinary devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made you take birth in America to assist Srila Prabhupada in his mission to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. How did you figure that out? He only half joked. Just an intelligent observation, I remarked with a smile. Not only did Lord Chaitanya send you all, but he made all the arrangements so wonderfully for Srila Prabhupada to come to America at a time when the scene was perfectly set for him to spread Krishna consciousness. After the Second World War, America had reached the height of material prosperity, but you all, the youth of America, became disillusioned and realized that money could not buy everything, and started to look for a positive alternative to find real happiness. At the time Srila Prabhupada came to America, what then happened will be seen by posterity as a divine arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maharaj looked at me right in the eyes. His gaze piercing, he did not say a word. I started to feel uneasy, a bit embarrassed, and began to explain, actually this is not really my own assessment. Sometimes devotees, but he interrupted. There is no need to apologize. He stopped me. What you said is both correct and profound. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada was in Rishikesh for a while. Then one day, it was very stormy. Like, when we went there, the weather was beautiful. But then all of a sudden, one day a storm started. And it was an unbelievable thing, like the wind was so strong, the sound, I mean, it was practically, it was a thunderous sound with which the wind was blowing. And then came the torrents of rain, and as a result of that, the pillars, you see the electric cables there were taken through pillars. Some pillars broke and the electric supply got cut. And the night was completely dark, and it was quite ominous actually, raining with this gale and no electricity, everything was dark. And it went on for a couple of days. And then the next night, at night, one of us used to be with Srila Prabhupada all the time. Like my shift was from 12 to 2. And So one night, must have been around 1 o'clock, Srila Prabhupada called me and anyway, let me read that part. At around 1 a.m. during my shift, Srila Prabhupada rang his bell. I quickly went to his bed, lifted the mosquito net and asked him, what could I do? How could I help? Prabhupada had been lying in bed, restless, unable to sleep. When I leaned over to hear his words, what he told me left me in shock. In a soft, serene voice, he said, the time has come for me to leave my body. Please take me to Vrindavan. I want to leave my body in Vrindavan. My body began to tremble uncontrollably. I ran downstairs and woke up Tamal Krishna Maharaj, practically shouting, telling him what Srila Prabhupada had said. He jumped out of the bed and ran upstairs, where Srila Prabhupada told him the same thing. Please take me to Vrindavan. The time has come for me to leave my body. I want to leave my body in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada's health had been poor, but none of us had imagined that it was so serious that he could leave his body. We all thought that it was just a temporary thing and that he would soon get better. We had been confident that the visit to Rishikesh was just what he had needed and that his health would improve with some rest. We simply were not prepared for this turn of events. We packed up that night in such shock and with such heavy hearts that we could barely speak, drove to Delhi the next day, stopped overnight, and the following morning left for Vrindavan. So when Prabhupada arrived in Vrindavan, the devotees were so ecstatic that all of a sudden, unannounced, Prabhupada just came. And so devotees, hundreds of devotees there, Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki Jai, Jai Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai, Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki Jai, Jai Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So when Prabhupada arrived, the devotees were ecstatic. With a loud kirtan, they followed Srila Prabhupada to the temple. Prabhupada had the darshan of the deities. And then Prabhupada walked to his room, walked to his quarters, with the devotees following him. And Prabhupada came to his darshan room. All the devotees came into the darshan room, sat down. And when the kirtan stopped, Prabhupada started to speak. And Prabhupada announced why he came to Vrindavan, that he came to Vrindavan to leave his body. I mean, I could see that immediately the ecstasy that the devotees were experiencing turned into sheer agony. And Prabhupada, in a very soft and soothing voice, he just mentioned he quoted the verse, Dehi noshmin jatha dehe komaram jovanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. Prabhupada explained that this body changes. Childhood to youth to old age. And then dehantara praptir. One will eventually leave the body. But dehantar, from one body he will go to another body. And this is how Srila Prabhupada tried to pacify the devotees, explaining that dhiras tatra namuyati, those who are situated in knowledge, they don't become overwhelmed with this changing of body. And when everyone left, Srila Prabhupada called me and told me, from now on, you don't cook for me. And don't force me to eat anything. What is the use of eating when there is no appetite? And this came to me like an ultimatum, that don't cook for me, don't force me to eat anything. And I could see Prabhupada came to Vrindavan to leave his body. That meant now, without eating, without drinking, just as Parikshit Maharaj did, Prabhupada was going to leave his body. So with a heavy heart I went to Tamal Krishna Maharaj and I told him. Upon hearing that, Tamal Krishna Maharaj also sat there for a while without saying anything. Then he said, what can we do when Prabhupada speaks like that, when Prabhupada decides like that? And Prabhupada, I couldn't cook for Srila Prabhupada, but every morning, every day I used to make some fruit juices, and like just in case Prabhupada wanted to drink something. In the meantime, the news actually spread all over the world. Actually, when we stopped in Delhi, Tamal Krishna Maharaj called Adi Keshav Maharaj, who was the GBC of New York, and told him what Prabhupada said, and he asked him to inform all the temples. Like those days, the telephone system in India was appalling. So, I mean, it was to get a phone line was like needed lives of pious activities in your credit. And what to speak of international calls. It was, I mean, the world has changed so much in these few years, 30, 35, 40 years. Like now, you can call anywhere from your cell phone. And those days were so different. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj could make only one phone call, and that is to Adi Keshav Maharaj, and asked him to inform all the other temples, all the other leading devotees. So upon receiving that news, many devotees came to Vrindavan, and they had a meeting, and in that meeting they decided that they could not let Srila Prabhupada go now. And then they came and told Prabhupada that how they would become orphans if Prabhupada left. So then Prabhupada decided to stay. And the devotees became so excited when Prabhupada said, okay, then I'll stay. I was not there in that meeting when they met, because I was attending Srila Prabhupada. But when they came and met Srila Prabhupada, I was there, and I remember when Prabhupada said that he was going to stay, the devotees became so excited and shouted, Jai Srila Prabhupada. And then I started to cook again, without even asking Srila Prabhupada for his permission. So I cooked and I told Prabhupada, I have the prasad ready. And Prabhupada accepted, but Prabhupada couldn't eat anything. And in this way it went on, like I would cook, Prabhupada would sit there, try to eat, couldn't eat, because he didn't really have any appetite. So one day, while after Srila Prabhupada took prasad, he asked me whether I knew where Gopinath Bazaar was. So that was my first visit to Vrindavan, and I did not step out of the temple complex. So I didn't know anything about Vrindavan. But I told Prabhupada, Prabhupada, tell me what you want, I'll find out. Then I told him that I can take a rickshaw and find out where Gopinath Bazaar is. Then Prabhupada said, go to Gopinath Bazaar in front of Ranganathji temple and Govindaji temple. And there is an Ayurvedic doctor. His name is Banamali Kaviraj. You meet him and you tell him that he used to treat me before, and I needed him to treat me. So I went to Gopinath Bazar. To find Banawali Kaviraj was not difficult. He was also a very old man, a Bengali gentleman. He had a small little kind of shop, you can say, where he used to sit. And I found him there, and I told him. And so he said, see, I can treat him only if he comes here. So I said, Prabhupada cannot come here. His health condition is so bad. You please come to see him. So he said, look, I don't go anywhere. I can't travel. He was very old actually. He must have been over 90 at that time. So then I told him that I will take you to a rickshaw. He said, rickshaw? With every bump, my bones will crack. So I begged him, practically falling at his feet, please come, Prabhupada wanted you to treat him. So finally he agreed. So then Banawali Kaviraj came and so I felt his pulse. That's how they see. I felt the pulse for a long time. And then, so he told me that one problem is that the medicine that he would give had to be prepared freshly. And so I said, okay, we'll arrange for you to stay in the guest house. We'll arrange for you to stay in the guest house. He said, no, I have to go home. Then I told him, then why don't you show me how to prepare the medicine? So he liked that idea. So he took me to the field and showed me 2 plants and picked the leaves of those plants. And he showed me how to crush the plants and extract the juice. And then he gave 2 salts, one white and one pink, and gave the proportion to mix it. And he asked me to give it to Srila Prabhupada. So I started to administer the medicine, and every day I used to go with Prabhupada's car and bring Banawali Kaviraj to Prabhupada to check. And with his treatment, Prabhupada's condition started to improve. And so, anyway, so this is how Prabhupada's health condition improved from the treatment. But when his health condition improved, Prabhupada wanted to come to the West. And when I told Banawali Kaviraj, he actually told me, please don't let him go now. His condition is improving, and in winter I will give him Makaradhaj. It's a strong medicine, but by the time his health will improve, and the cold of the winter will help him to retain and digest the medicine. But Prabhupada decided to go to the West, so I could not interfere. I told Tamal Krishna Maharaj, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj told me that, look, Prabhupada wanted to go, so what can we do? And Prabhupada's plan was to come to London, then go to New York, then go to Gita Nagari, then go to Los Angeles, and then to Hawaii. And Prabhupada decided to stay in Hawaii and translate Srimad Bhagavatam. And so one night Prabhupada left Vrindavan and drove to Delhi, took a flight to London. And Prabhupada came to London Prabhupada came practically, around this time. No, little later, because that year Janmashtami was 6th of September. And generally Janmashtami takes place in August, but most really that was also Adhik Mas. So Anyway, so Prabhupada stayed in London for Janmashtami, Vyas Puja, but Prabhupada's health condition deteriorated. He even had a minor operation, and his health condition deteriorated very rapidly. So he cancelled his program to go to America and Hawaii, and Prabhupada decided to go back to India. So when Prabhupada was leaving, Prabhupada asked me whether I was not coming with him. So I told him I didn't have my passport with me. So Prabhupada told me, so you come and meet me in Hawaii. So that was the idea. But so I went back to Mayapur, and one afternoon I got a telegram from Tamal Krishna Maharaj. It said, Prabhupada wants you in Vrindavan immediately. So Prabhupada came to Bombay, and then from Bombay Prabhupada came to Vrindavan. And when Prabhupada arrived in Vrindavan, he wanted me to go back. And so I went to Vrindavan. When I arrived in Prabhupada's room, I arrived in Vrindavan in the evening, and I found that Prabhupada's room was kind of dark with just one small lamp burning. And so in that room Prabhupada was lying on the bed. So Upendra said, come in, and Upendra and I was sitting at the end of the room by the door. So at one time Prabhupada started to cough and he woke up. So Upendra went to attend him. So then Upendra told him that I came. So Prabhupada told him to ask me to come close to him. So when I went to Prabhupada, I just saw Prabhupada became so thin. He was already very thin, but this time he was so emaciated. So Prabhupada asked me to help him. Prabhupada wanted to sit up, so I helped him to sit up and propped him up with the pillows. And so when I was helping him to sit up, I could see that his body became so thin. So I told him, Prabhupada, you became so thin. Prabhupada said, yes, now this body is just a set of bones in a bag of skin. And it was a set of bones in a bag of skin. And that is how Srila Prabhupada returned, and that was the condition of Srila Prabhupada. And then, anyway, so Prabhupada wanted one of his friends, early acquaintances, a doctor from Allahabad, Dr. Ghosh, he wanted him to come and treat him at that time. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj wrote 2-3 letters to Dr. Ghosh, but he didn't get any response. So then it was decided to send Loknath Maharaj to find him and bring him. So he was in Allahabad, so Loknath Maharaj went to Allahabad. So when he went to Allahabad, he found out that Dr. Ghosh was not there. He was in Calcutta, where his daughter used to live. So Loknath Maharaj then went to Calcutta, and he found out that he was not there. He went to Darjeeling, where his granddaughter was studying in a school there. And so Loknath Maharaj went to Darjeeling, and he met Dr. Ghosh there and told him that Prabhupada wanted him to treat him. So he was such a nice man. He was also of Prabhupada's age. He must have been at least in his 80s. So he agreed to come. Like Loknath Maharaj told me later on that from Darjeeling they came down and there was no train from there. They couldn't get any train, so they took a bus ride, 22-hour bus ride from there to Calcutta and Calcutta to Vrindavan. And so Dr. Ghosh started to treat Srila Prabhupada. But there was no improvement. One time Dr. Ghosh, like an allopathic doctor, wanted to take Prabhupada's blood test. But Prabhupada did not allow him to take blood. Prabhupada told us that nothing should pierce his body. And so that instruction Prabhupada gave us clearly, that nothing should pierce his body. And then Dr. Ghosh stayed there for some time and left. Then one day, one morning, Prabhupada told us that he had a dream, that he saw in the dream that a Ramanuji Kaviraj was making Makaradhaj for him. Makaradhaj is a kind of Ayurvedic tonic which is made from curing mercury. And that's one of the ingredients. And actually, I remember that the Bonamali Kaviraj also told me that he wanted to give Makaradhaj to Prabhupada, but he was waiting for Prabhupada's condition to improve. And also he wanted to give it in the winter time so that the cold of winter would help him to retain this medicine. But anyway, so Prabhupada had a dream that an Ayurvedic Kaviraj was treating him with making Makaradhaj for him. So we all thought that if we get the Makaradhaj made from an Ayurvedic Kaviraj, then probably that will cure Prabhupada. And so I went, there in Vrindavan, there is this Ranganath temple, which is a Ramanuji Sampradaya temple. So I went to the temple, and I was quite confident that we'll find some Ramanuji Kaviraj in there. There was no Ramanuja Kaviraj. I looked around everywhere in Vrindavan, couldn't find one. Then finally one Ramanuja guy said that he knew how to make Makaradhaj. And so I went and reported, I went and told Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And he wanted some money, he wanted 2,500 rupees. And those days 2,500 rupees was quite a lot of money in India. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj then sent Bhagavan Prabhu with me to speak to that person. So I was translating. He was speaking, Bhagavan telling, and Bhagavan was interrogating us. And finally Bhagavan felt that this guy is a cheater. He was a nonsense. So he decided not to have him make the Makaradhaj. But in the meantime, Abhiram Prabhu, when he went to Delhi, he got some Makaradhaj. And that Makaradhaj was given to Srila Prabhupada. And since then Prabhupada started to feel very uneasy. And he took it only once and then he stopped it. So in the meantime, in the news spread that Prabhupada had a dream that an Ayurvedic Kaviraj was making Makaradhaj for him. So the temple president of Calcutta, Adridharan Prabhu, he found out one Ramanuja Kaviraj and he asked whether he could bring him. And so Prabhupada agreed that he could come and treat him. So Adri came with this Ayurvedic doctor. His name was Damodar Prasad Shastri. So Damodar Prasad Shastri came and checked Srila Prabhupada. So So, 2 days later, Adridharan arrived with the Kaviraj, Damodar Prasad Shastri, a pleasant, middle-aged gentleman from Rajasthan. The doctor felt Prabhupada's pulse for some time, perhaps 5 minutes, while talking to him casually, pressing Prabhupada's feet and hands, which were quite swollen. He asked about his pain and said that his ailment was due to the malfunctioning of his kidneys. Tamal Krishna Maharaj said that the doctor in London had come to the same conclusion. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Damodar Prasad and I went to the office to discuss Srila Prabhupada's health and what needed to be done. Damodar Prasad did not speak English, so I translated. He told us that Srila Prabhupada's condition was quite serious, further aggravated by weakness. He was not able to fight off or rectify his ailment. He mentioned that his kidneys played a crucial, important role. That kidney plays a crucial, important role. They filter the blood that supplies energy to the body. And according to Ayurveda, like he pointed out, that according to Ayurveda, the kidney pushes the blood upwards and urine downwards, which is actually the other way, how the kidney actually filters the blood. The impurities of blood is taken out in the form of urine, and pure blood is sent back to the heart. So, therefore, when the kidney malfunctioned, the impurities did not get filtered but remained in the blood, causing swelling of the feet and hands. I told him that Vanamali Kaviraj had also said that Srila Prabhupada's ailment was due to the malfunctioning of his kidneys, and he had given him some medicines, 2 types of salt, one white and the other pink, to be mixed with the extracts of Punarnava and Patharkuchi leaves. Damodar Prasad agreed that the extracts of those leaves are appropriate and asked whether we are continuing with them. I related how Banamali Kaviraj had treated Srila Prabhupada 4 months before, how Prabhupada's health had improved, how he had decided to go to the West, and then how his condition has deteriorated when Prabhupada returned to Vrindavan. Banamali Kaviraj had resumed the treatment, but he had stopped when he saw that his medicines were not working. Damodar Prasad listened carefully without comment. Then he said that he would prepare something to give to Srila Prabhupada. Although he had been brought to Vrindavan to prepare the Makaradhaj, he did not mention it, but prepared several other kinds of medicines instead. He seemed confident of curing Srila Prabhupada, but when he spoke to us, he expressed his serious concern. So this way it goes on, so I'll stop now. It's almost 10 o'clock. So we had a long 2.5 hour session. So And the rest is a little difficult for me to read also. So and the book describes, and probably when it comes out you can read them. So this is more or less the synopsis. I just selected some parts to be read out. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So does anybody have any question, by the way? Just maybe I can take a few minutes. Okay, that's okay, yeah. We thought of a few names, but it seems the one that will stick to would be my Lord and Master. Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.